KFNX Studios is The Locksmith Show. We're your hosts, Andrew Ryan from Andrew's Lock and Key, and I bring you the latest news and entertainment in the security industry. I'm your host, Locksmith Charlie. Our call-in number is 602-277-5369 or 277-KFNX. And just to get this started, I'm going to cordially invite anybody that wants to meet us out in the parking lot at 12 o'clock for a free house key or something very simple, and we'll have a good time. This past week has been fraught with tragedy. Just yesterday, we learned that we've lost a Supreme Court justice, and it's not a good thing. Then the day before, we lost two young lady students that, as far as we know, had a great deal of promise over in Glendale at a school. And now we have windows.
Yeah, no, we had some tragedy here in Phoenix for sure. And I believe that court justice, he died of natural causes.
Antonin Scalia.
Yes.
And we don't know exactly the cause. They said that he was out on a
Hunting trip.
Yeah, hunting trip, vacation adventure, and he said he wasn't feeling well when he went to bed. Well, apparently he really wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
It should have been a red flag for somebody.
Wow. He was 79?
I don't recall exactly.
He was an older guy, I thought. I was reading it this morning.
It's got to be an even number, though, because it was 1936 to 2016 or something. Yeah. So, yeah.
80.
Well, maybe he hadn't made his birthday yet. I don't know. But, yeah, we're going to miss him, and it does make a bunch of big problems as far as the whole judicial system and the government system goes, because we certainly don't want Obama appointing the next justice. And, of course, he's going to try, and the Senate's going to get in the way, and we're going to have a 4-4 mess for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping to have a couple of people call in today. We've got a couple of people that we've been talking to, and some news in the industry.
Yes. Waiting on to see if me and Terry from Pro Compliance have been having some issues getting a hold of each other, I think. But if we don't get her on today, we'll get her on next week for sure. Tom's trying to get a hold of her to see if she can call into the show. So,
well, that'd be
good.
Then,
we've made contact with Rob. I'm waiting on Mr. Painter to contact us back yet. But some other news is, excuse me, back to those girls. That's horrible. And I have kids here in high school here in Phoenix too. That that hit home to them pretty hard. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up and dating, and it was tough. I can only imagine how tough it might be for two girls that were dating. And rejection is always a punch in the gut.
Yeah, well, and you have to overcome that at that age,
Well, you have to overcome it at every age.
Yes, well, that is very true. Harder, I think, when you're a teenager because you don't know how to cope with certain things.
There's no way to teach somebody how to cope with that type of emotion.
I deal with that with my 15. He's 15, and I deal with that on a regular basis with him. Has all these new emotions that are coming, and him thinking, how he knows everything's right, and they're still growing. They need to be taught what's right from wrong, and still at 15. I mean, there must have been something between those two. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but it's very sad. It's tragic, and condolences go to both of the families and all their friends out at the high school. So,
and to Justice.
Yes.
Supreme Court Justice.
Family and friends and our nation.
Yes.
So, what are we going to talk about in the meantime?
Well, I've been trying to determine how Google can be responsible for any of the stuff that they've been posting about, the scammers. I don't think they really can. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with my searches of Google as of late have shown our show, Charlie, is actually being posted in several YouTube descriptions. I've yet to figure why that's out, but it's kind of free advertising in a weird way and a bunch of other channels for us. So,
thing I can't understand is why the locksmithshow.com website doesn't have any links pointing to any of these videos. At least not that I've seen.
Which videos?
Any or all of them.
Oh, well, they're...
I think we need to get a links page up there and start pointing at some of these videos, and maybe then on the video pages point back at ours.
When I get done, I filmed myself talking about them last night. So once that's done editing, I will.
Is that what they call narcissistic?
I don't know.
Andrew, narcissistic?
No.
Nah.
Nope, I am not.
Not even a little.
No. I don't like talking about myself. Ever. So what's new in your front, Ryan?
It was the week.
What did you do yesterday? We learned something yesterday, Charlie.
Did we?
Yes. That we hate mid-year Hondas.
Yes.
We really do.
Yes.
We had the curse of is it a 06? Is it a 07? Or 05, I mean?
05 or an 07. So a customer called us and told Andrew that it was an 05 Honda Civic. And so we got out there and read the manufacture date, which was 09 of 2005, which is right on the cusp. It could be an 06, could be an 05. It's up in the air. So I've been doing crash courses and cutting keys on the Ninja Laser, and some go well and some don't. And so I took the mechanical key that she had, decoded it on the Ninja Laser, verified that it had an actual key code for the car, and it did. So I duplicated it on a test key, another mechanical key, just to make sure I had all my ducks in a row, and I did. So I just grabbed two of the HO01s that are for an 05 Civic, cut the keys, jumped in the car, and the computers that we have two different computers that we use for programming keys, said the ECU was not found when I selected that year range for the Civic. So I tried every trick that I've seen Andrew pull, and I couldn't get it to work. And so I finally called Andrew. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Chuck? I can't figure this out. What's going on?"
V-chip.
Yep.
And
what we found out is that the V-chip is directional. Well, what I found out, I
found out that it's directional. I found out it's directional because I was trying to get him to trick it with the HO3 real quick to see if it would start, then just go cut it on that blank. I don't think over the phone I could explain to him how close he needed to get that chip because of how directional it is to get it to program.
Well, now if you have JMA chip keys, you can always just take the chips out. But
we're not going to go on which keys I use and which ones I don't. So lesson learned. And we'll go from there.
So if the chip was in backwards, was that a JMA key? Because I've had that happen
it's not
with a bunch of
Fords. I actually I was using those either are Blue Rocket or Ilco, depending on which ones.
They were Ilco.
They were Ilco.
They were all Ilco.
So then it was...
Well, if they were Ilco, how'd they get the chip in backwards? Because those are all molded.
No. The chip wasn't backwards.
It's directional. How the receiver gets picked up, how the chip pushes out the receiver.
So I can't put the key in the ignition and turn it because it's not a cut.
Because I didn't have him cut the key. I had him try to trick the car by using the mechanical key in the other one, but I don't think he had it close enough to it while he was trying to program it. So then I just said, let's just go for it. And it worked.
Absolutely.
He got out of the van or got out of the car and had my customers rolling on the ground, I guess.
So I'd been there for an hour.
At gunpoint?
Sweating. No. I jumped out of her car because they were kind of stressed out, and I was trying to make light of the situation, trying to keep them optimistic and that we'd get this fixed. And so when I got the first key programmed, I hopped out of her car and did a very goofy happy dance because I finally figured it out and got it done. And the customer and her father were rolling on the ground laughing at me, which is fine. I don't care.
You should have took pictures or video.
Yeah, it should have happened.
Yeah.
And then the customer she just looked at me and she's like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. You got to do it again." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe later."
Maybe if the second one goes.
So after the second one was programmed, I hopped out and did my little happy dance, and that was that.
Should video that one too.
I will. We're gonna get a full mobile video rig
It's
rolling
gonna-
in
yeah,
the van pretty soon.
When I get
Because I'm
on
gonna
these-
start doing customer reviews right on the spot if they're willing to do it.
You know, for $15-20, if you go on eBay, you can get those dash cams that
Oh yeah.
do HD, and I think that could be a real good idea. Just have that like inside the door, and every time you open the door, the dash cam will come on and out the side door.
Oh yeah.
And I think that could be fun.
Well, I have 2 GoPros. I ordered a third one.
Well, yeah, but if
So-
you don't put them up and have them working, what's the point?
Oh, they'll always be up and working, fully operational.
So our call-in numbers are going to be 602-277-KFNX, 277-5369, and we cordially invite everyone to call in with their lock and key questions and problems, and we'll see if we can get any of those solved.
We're going to head out to a commercial break, so stay tuned for some more info from the Locksmith Show.
Welcome back to the Locksmith Show, ladies and gentlemen, where we provide all kinds of eclectic information for your entertainment and amusement. I can't stress enough how important it is for everyone with Chrysler vehicles to make sure that they have their PIN numbers. It's always a good idea to go to the dealer and get your PIN number and make sure you've got it on hand.
It is just something that they're required to give you for free. We've actually had a few customers call us up after we told them to grab it, and the dealership tried to charge them money. It is something that they're required to give you for free. It's information that is proprietary to your vehicle. So if a dealership tries to charge you for that, call on the dealership or ask to speak to a manager. That PIN number is information about your vehicle they're required to provide. So beware of them trying to charge you and make extra money.
Another thing we'd like to stress very much is if you go out and get a used car, if they only give you one key, get another key right away. Because if you have at least something to decode and copy and or decode and originate a new key, that's a lot less expensive in the long run than it is to just have us come out and fabricate a key from scratch just from tearing the vehicle apart or using specialized tools to read the locks or what have you. The other thing is most cars in the last, 15 years, especially the foreign cars, are one key fits everything when they leave the factory. If you get a used car like we're working right now on the old Toyota Solera, I believe it is.
Yes.
And the customer did let us know that there's an ignition key and a door key. And that's not how that car came from the factory. So it's very difficult to get the ignition out oftentimes if we don't have a key that can turn it. So
yeah, I'm having quite a bit of trouble right now. We
Yeah,
can go back
Andrew-
and work on that.
Andrew and I spent about an hour and a half last night trying to get the ignition out.
No,
We got the door key made pretty quickly.
I just wanted to double check. You got some of those customers or a used car. This was a salvage title on this car. I do know that for a fact. And the guy could have had a really worn out key that only worked the door and did not work his ignition. And it's sorry.
Well, yeah, oftentimes worn keys are a problem, and that was the problem with the gentleman last night with the Mustang.
With your Ford that you were working on.
He had an old 99 or something Mustang, and he stuck his key in the trunk and turned it, and of course it broke right off because it was a very worn key. Fortunately, I was able to decode it and cut it by code and have some perfect keys for him now.
I think it's been the Chevy trouble with me lately. I don't know, how many times have we pulled out a key out of a Malibu in the last 2 months, right? Like 6 times, I think.
At least almost once a week.
You
If
talking
not
about
more.
The newer
Z
the
keyway?
Z
or,
keyway. Yeah, they've been snapping them off in the trunk. You were talking about that.
Not high security, though.
No, not the new high security GM stuff. That's a rather thicker key. I don't think they'll break that as easy.
The good news is, though, for my guy last night, once I was able to fabricate a key, all I had to do was cut it onto a very inexpensive shell, remove the transponder from his key, put it in the shell, and stick it in the ignition, and the car is good to go. He was doing engine stuff on it, so it wouldn't start at that time, but the theft light went out, so I'm pretty confident that we weren't having any programming problems with that. But still, now he's got a mechanical key and one transponder key. If he loses that one transponder key, he's going to be in a world of trouble because you're going to have to program more keys into the car. And it's just a lot better to do that.
Mechanical key. I also give all of my customers, when I make their keys, I always give them their key code. And I tell them to store it. If it ever happens again, call me. If you don't get a hold of me or you're in a different city, you have a key code for your car, and a locksmith can make that key rather quickly.
Well, in this instance, I wrote the cuts, not the code, but the actual cuts onto my business card when I gave it to him, so he's aware of all that.
Mm-hmm.
We have on the line the mystery locksmith guy calling in again. Why he wants to hide his identity, we don't have a clue in the world.
Because he hides behind his
Should we
mask.
out him?
Oh, I don't know. I had a discussion with him yesterday. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. So what's going on, Mr. Mystery?
Not much. Not much. I just wanted to say some stuff from last week that when you buy a vehicle, you should have all the old keys erased and the ones you want to keep reprogrammed, because if your vehicle happens to be stolen and the insurance company has it investigated and they see keys that you cannot produce, they may say that you had the vehicle stolen with those keys. So it's always a good thing to have any keys that disappear erased from the vehicle. And also, some vehicles have an auto start where they can remotely start the vehicle, and they have to bypass some of the security system to put that in, and that could be an issue with an insurance company.
And I don't disagree with you at all.
Huh?
I don't disagree at all. I always ask the customer most of the time when I'm there if all the keys are here, because then there is no question ever. You know, if you go in there and you see there's 4 keys programmed for the car, then you're adding another one and they only have 1 key. Why shouldn't you? You know, because there's 3 more keys in the car that shouldn't be in the car at that point.
Unless they can find them someday.
Or if they know where they are. But
if they do find them someday, if they're erased, you can add them back in.
And most of the time what I do tell my customers are, if they do find their other key and they bring it to me, I will reprogram it for free. If
they bring it.
If they bring it. If I have to go out, that's a whole different story. But if they drive over to my office and they find the other key and I'm the one that kicked it out, bring it to me and I'll plug my machine back in. A lot of the time, if they already have 2 keys, you can do onboard pre-programming, so there's nothing else to it. And sometimes I just walk them over the phone on how to do that.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times when somebody will call me up talking about a General Motors, and there's a lot of locksmiths out there that are going to get really annoyed with me right now, but if a customer calls me up with a General Motors problem, I frequently tell them, hey, look, go to the dealer, get a key, call me back when you're back at the car, we'll get your car running for you.
Well, and speaking of General, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Some A girl I know, I told her she needed to take her key in because her ignition quit working, and General Motors had that recall on the keys. And they tried to program her to give her the new key that is that they're supposed to give to you because they made a mistake. They tried to charge her for that key when it was a recall, and they're supposed to supply it for free. And she told them she wasn't going to pay, and they finally went ahead and gave her that key for free. But they actually tried to charge her for that recall key, you know. I just wanted to make that a point that sometimes you take it in, they try to charge you for that recall key, but stay on them and tell them you don't want to pay for it.
Oh, exactly. I fix a lot of General Motors ignitions still that got recalled.
So you're talking about the new keys with the little tiny round circle in the middle instead of the big old slot.
Mm-hmm.
Key ring hole, yes.
All right, then.
I haven't got a lot to say. I just wanted to say that stuff.
Oh. Well,
And
thank
I don't
you.
care if you out me or not. I'm just, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to not know who you are. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, you do.
Do I?
Yeah.
Wow. I
You
guess.
sat
I was
right
sitting across the
across.
table with-
You sat
with
right
you
across the
yesterday with a
table
bag
from
on
him
my head.
yesterday.
Oh, hey, what's up? Okay. All right.
This
So,
guy.
so that
This
was
guy.
yesterday.
Yes, that was yesterday.
Yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah, the supple meet or the
So-
the
PAL
PALS
meeting
meeting was yesterday.
Yeah, somehow I managed to miss that once
And
again.
with that, we are going to take a quick
Our,
commercial break. Stay tuned to the Locksmith Show for any useful tips and tricks, and we will be back shortly.
Welcome back to the Locksmith Show, where we're live in the studio with Andrew and Ryan from Andrew's Lock and Key. Guess we have Daniel on the line. What's up, Mr. Daniel?
Hello.
How
Can
can
you
we
hear
help
me?
you?
Yes.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, this is my second time listening and first time calling. Really just wanted to call and say hello to Andrew.
Oh, thank you.
Old buddies.
Yeah. How you been, man?
Good. I've been doing great.
I actually met this guy 8-9 years ago. He's doing doors up in Flagstaff now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So I mostly deal with commercial doors at the healthcare facilities, Flagstaff Medical Center, do some stuff at Verde Valley Medical Center, and supply and install doors and hardware.
Well, thanks for listening, man.
Yeah. I did actually have a scenario I wanted to drop on you guys and
Do
see
tell.
what you thought about it.
Absolutely.
So my dad came through Phoenix a couple weeks ago and stopped at the Circle K right when coming to town off of the 101.
Uh-huh.
And he, locked his keys and his phone in the car. So the Circle K called somebody. Their regular guy that owns a tow truck service and also does the locksmithing wasn't available. They were far out. So they called their, I guess, second best option, who was 24/7 locksmiths.
Sounds
No.
like Ami Hanan.
Yeah. Oh, man.
What happened? Tell us what happened.
So he said, I'm on my way. It's going to be a while. He ended up waiting for about an hour and a half or something like that. The guy finally showed up. No signage or anything on his vehicle. And, ended up basically getting one of the inflatable wedges and unlocked the car. And didn't give him a price up front. He might have given a price up front to the Circle K or something like that, whoever was talking to him. But he ended up charging him $250 to wedge the door open and get the car open. Didn't make any keys or anything like that. And,
Did your dad pay on a credit card?
Yeah,
Then I would dispute those charges right away.
really.
And I would like to know more about the actual scenario and how it happened because
Well, what it sounds like to me,
there was a case a couple of months back where a young lady came up from Maricopa for a softball game, and this 24/7 guy put service call $55 on the invoice, had her sign that and a blank credit card slip. Then he went to his vehicle and ran the credit card, and when he came back, it was like $286.
Oh, wow.
And if they did something like that, I think you need to write a letter to the Attorney General and report it to the police, because that's just what they call bait and switch, and it's credit card fraud.
It doesn't sound like we know if that's what happened or not. Do you have any more specifics about what happened between that quote unquote locksmith and your father?
So I tried to get some more of the details this morning before I called in, but that was the basics of it. He locked his keys and his phone in the car, so he couldn't call somebody himself. The Circle K called. Their tow truck driver was a few hours out or busy with something else, so they called this other guy and ended up taking him a lot longer than expected. And I don't know if they quoted over the phone to the Circle K or...
Probably not because if Circle K was calling and it wasn't your dad,
they wouldn't have asked.
They probably wouldn't have asked because it's not their money. So
right. So
and the worst case scenario is probably they did call the guy that wouldn't have charged your dad nearly as much, but then they didn't know who to call, so somebody probably grabbed their phone open and typed in locksmith, and they got the nearest locksmith that they could find, and it just so happened to be.
Did he give your dad any type of price information before he started work?
No, I think it was just basically the taking advantage of the desperate and the frantic, somebody that's passing through town and needs to get their car open right away. And, you don't think about all that stuff. But, yeah, go ahead.
Can you tell us the location of this Circle K? Because I'd like to go by there and give them some business cards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. So he said right when he was coming into town, he got on the 101. And I don't know if it was east or west, but it was the first Circle K off of the 101.
On the 101.
Was he
off the 17 because he's coming down from up there? So
yeah, coming from Flagstaff. So
is it 7th Street? There's one there. Or 7th Avenue.
Well, maybe you could find out.
Yeah, if you
give
could
us
find
a call off the air and let us know, because I'd like to look into this.
And if there's any legitimate locksmiths listening right now in town, maybe go start handing a few cards out around Circle Ks and stuff so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and that was, I think, my main reason for calling. Like I said, last week was my first time listening, and I'm just excited that Andrew's got a radio show and to hear locksmiths talking about this stuff openly. The hope is that maybe, other people won't get screwed as much.
And I really wish your dad would have known my phone number, because I think I've met your dad before.
Well,
yeah.
And this is a big problem. Like the Toyota guy we were talking about earlier, he thought it was just simply outrageous that he's going to have to pay $250, $300 to get a Toyota key for a car that he paid like $300 for. And the thing is, in that particular instance, it's reasonable because we have to take the ignition all apart. We have to take the computer out, flash the computer, put the computer back in, and make the whole car work.
It's a good 2 to 5 hour job, depending on how that ignition wants to come out, because the rest of it's not too terribly hard to do. And then we got expensive tools that we have to purchase to be able to do that type of stuff.
But
if you
for
were
a simple car opening, that kind of pricing is absolutely out of line.
I'm going to say the pricing range should be anywhere from
$250,
$55, depending on the technician and how close they are, all the way up to $125. And that's just going to be, that's the ballpark figure. $250 to open up a car with a pump wedge.
Yeah.
That's not how to open a car, in my opinion, either. I am guilty of doing it just as much as everybody else. If there's certain vehicles out there you have to do it with, I prefer not to do that type of forced entry.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I think at this point it's been too far out that he's going to be able to really dispute the charges on his card. But
if there are any listeners out there that do have this problem, make sure you get a written out receipt from these people, and you can dispute these charges. Some banks have been known to reverse some of the fees for it and give somebody the average going rate for the job.
Yeah, if you can get enough legitimate professionals to give you price quotes and then take that to the bank and say, hey, this is what the job should have cost. The guy pulled a bait and switch. I understand I can't get all my money back, but can we work something out on this price?
And like we've told everybody numerous times since we started this show, the operators that we call the scammers have a favorite phrase. It's end up.
End up.
And if somebody calls me up, like last night, the guy with the Ford called me up, I knew all I was going to have to do is go out and read a key, cut a key by code, make sure it worked, and put the transponder chip in it, and he'd be good to go. So I gave him a flat rate, $100 to go out and do that, which, given the circumstances, was underquoted.
I was going to say, you got your butt kicked on that for $100. But still, I mean, and you kept to your price, though, did you not?
But yeah, when he saw everything I did and then asked me, how much is it going to be? I says, well, I severely underbid this job, but I quoted you $100, so that's what I'm going to take.
Exactly. And an honest guy will do that without, I'll stop with my customer and say, hey, you know what, but we have to do this.
What I'm getting to with that, though, is that if it's fit a key or if it's a lockout or whatever it is, if you're a professional and somebody calls you up, you should be able to say, what's the year, make, and model? And then once you know in your head what the job is, you should be able to give them an accurate quote. And unless something absolutely bizarre happens, that quote really has no reason to change.
Yeah. Well, other than this Toyota. I did quote him $250, but it might be getting a new ignition. But at the end of the day, he's going to get a new ignition that's keyed back to the original car key. So he has no issues with this ever again.
And you're going to give him a call before you...
Exactly.
And that actually is another thing we should tell people. If you have a problem with your car, with the locks, and somebody is talking about, well, let's just slap a new ignition in it. Well, that's fine, but don't just get one that's got a couple of random keys sticking out of it and throw that in the car, because I call that bastardizing the vehicle.
We should tell people not all vehicles do that, because you have your older GM ones that you're just going to do that with anyways.
Well, most of the... I'm going to say 85 to 90% of all the newer vehicles.
Oh, yes. I'm going to say 1995 and older GM, you're going to be replacing the ignition and getting a new set of keys for that car.
But back then on the General Motors, it was
2 keys.
1 key for the door and trunk and 1 key for the ignition anyway.
Yeah.
So that really is not relevant. But if you have a 1 key fits all kind of car, like a Honda or a Toyota or any of those, if somebody is talking about just put in a new ignition, say, yeah, that's cool. Key it up to the door key and or the existing car key, and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody that doesn't key the lock up is basically being a little bit lazy and somewhat unprofessional.
Very correct. Or not knowing what they're doing because they're a car mechanic.
Absolutely. So our call-in number is 602-277-KFNX, 866-536-1100, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back to the Locksmith Show, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to answer all of your questions relating to locks and keys and safes and criminals invading our industry. We have Linda on the line. How can we help you, Miss Linda?
Hi, guys. I was just listening to you, and I'm calling for my son. He has a 98 Malibu that was on the recall list for the ignition.
Mm-hmm.
And he took it in. There was nothing wrong with his ignition. He took it in, and it worked for a short period of time, and now it froze up. He called me one night from Circle K, and he said he had to leave his car there because the ignition froze. He couldn't even get it to start.
That's the older General Motors 10-cut system, and those ignitions have a known problem where the first and sometimes first and second wafers actually get stuck. And you have to do a lot of lubricating and wiggling around. And oftentimes when we replace those ignitions or get into a situation like this, we'll pop the spring cover off and dump out the first chamber or two and just not have all 9 wafers in the lock. But that's a problem that's known to locksmiths on these older GM 10-cut ignitions.
And the other problem that happens is that spring cap actually hatches on that lock as well.
Yeah, sometimes the spring cover will pop up and get caught in the groove in the housing and not let the
lock turn.
Oh.
That could be. Those are probably the 2 problems that are going on with that switch right now, why it's not allowing him to get it to turn.
Yeah.
So do we need to get out there and get him taken care of?
That's something we can do, or what?
Here's the deal. We took it to our mechanic, who's a real reliable guy, and they took it upon themselves to, look at it and see what was wrong. And they said that they didn't even fix it at GM. At the Chevy place, they put some kind of a plastic thing over it. That they didn't even re-ignition it or anything. So, and he showed it to him, and he goes, "It'll be $800 to fix this."
What?
Well, that's way out of line.
Yeah, well, we had to have it towed back home because we couldn't afford to pay $800 for it.
No, we can come out and get that thing working for you for nowhere near that price.
Yeah, so it's just sitting in the car spot, and he's just sick about it because it's a good running car. I mean, he takes care of it, and so it's just sitting there, and I'm just wondering. And I thought, wow, I just heard you guys, and I was wondering, what do I need to do now to get this thing motivated?
The thing is, on the recall for those, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, isn't it just they replace the key with the small hole in it instead of the big slot?
I think so.
They didn't give us a different key. They said they did something inside.
Oh, there might have been something down the column they replaced. The plastic gearing in there they might have switched out.
I think you're right or something, but when we took it to our mechanic, he said, look, they didn't do anything to it, and he showed my son.
Yeah. And sometimes when I tell guys this all the time, when you take your key problems of your car to an actual car mechanic, I mean, they can fix them, yes, but they're more specializing in the engine stuff and that type of stuff than actually working on that. And I tell you're going to get charged a lot more going to a mechanic because a lot of those mechanics call us out to fix it, and then they charge you what we charge them, but then charged you a service fee for having it parked in their garage while we did it.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well,
I don't want to run that around because I have a lot of mechanics that I do stuff for, but
I know what you mean.
That is a problem. But we can get your name and phone number down.
Yeah, don't hang up. We're going to put you on hold right now, and our producer's going to pick up and take down your name and phone number, and we'll give you a call after the show, and we'll get out there and get that handled for you.
Oh, man. Thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Oh, our pleasure.
I love your show. It's so informative. It's really great.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good day, and thank you so much for helping.
Yes.
Well, our pleasure.
Well, there's a thing that proves the show's working, and we do have listeners that do need help, and that's what we do this for, folks. I mean, that's really what this was built around. So,
yes, that and the whole consumer fraud thing. I'm kind of a big consumer advocate just on my own generally, and when I see things that I think are wrong, I'll do some extensive complaining about them, and not because I want to get a free this or that when they're so sorry that I feel that way and I've been inconvenienced. I don't care about all of that. When I go complaining about something, it's so that other people after me don't have to go through the same stuff I just went through.
Yeah. Well, and same thing with Dan's dad. I mean, I known Dan for years, and like he said, his phone was locked in the truck, so he couldn't call him to get a hold of me, so I could get somebody up in the north side to get it. Or if Ryan was up that way, he could have got it taken care of. Or if I was there, we could have got it opened.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have used similar methods to get the car open. I mean, I'm
it was
not
a Ford truck. You would have used the Slim Jim.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. Sorry,
yes.
I'm trying to take show notes at the same
That's
time.
why.
So some of it,
Or
but
the
yeah,
Easy Reader.
Or the easy reader.
Yeah,
You
but in that case, yeah, for a truck with the shoulder lock, I'm going to use a Slim Jim. I'm not going to use a pump wedge. There's no reason at
Right.
all.
And these guys don't know what they're
And
doing when they show up there. I mean, you could
so-
do that way. I guess I shouldn't say they don't know what they're doing. That's one way of opening the vehicle. It's just not the way that I would open up the
It's
vehicle.
not the easiest way to open that vehicle.
No, it's a forced entry.
And
You
and
know.
you don't ever want to use the Slim Jim on a Ford 10 cut.
I don't know anything about that.
Well, they have a plastic tailpiece on the back of the cylinder, and if you go in there jerking around on the linkages, since it's a rigid tailpiece, you're going to break it right
you
off.
can,
And,
yes. That's.
well,
That's
I always actually broke those things when I was having to take the lockout prior to me getting a hold of an easy reader, or me personally. I never told the boss that I lost a little slider one time because I knew it was in the bottom of the van and I didn't want to buy another one. So there was about a year I didn't have a 10-cut easy reader. And
Well, that'll teach you.
Oh yeah, and I learned how to hand file those things in no time. So
well, I mean, if you're talking about just opening the vehicle,
Oh, yeah.
those are the easiest locks in the world to pick.
Oh yeah, well I picked those, but I'm saying when I lost it to be able to make the key for the car, because you had to get the first 6 to go to
Yeah.
the ignition and use the tryout keys to get the ignition done. But yeah, I had that. That's how I learned how to impression, is because I lost my slider for the easy reader, and I didn't want to tell the boss
All
that
you
I
got to
did
do
that.
is pull that clip and look through the drain hole and read the wafers. I mean, that's a
Well,
lot faster and easier than
but that's
impression.
when I would break that plastic clip, because you would have to get it if you pulled the lockout. That clip was there, and if you bent it too hard and it had been sitting in the sun, at least in Arizona, we always had that problem. We have a lot of cars that get cooked. Those plastic parts get cooked like.
Oh, how about the little horn relay insulator on the Cadillac tilting telescoping?
Yeah, we won't talk about those cars
well, why not?
because I hate those cars. The first time I did a telescopic wheel, it was a 2-day adventure. So
First time I did one was in a towing yard, and I had not gotten a lock plate compressor prior to that, and so I had one other guy over there pushing down on the plate while I'm trying to put the C-clip back on.
oh, that's not that bad. I lost the pin down on the telescopic part, so we had to rebuild that, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Lost the pin.
Well, how you can't get it to go down, there's on the telescopic wheel, if you don't get something in there, you pull it out. Well, to get it to line back up again was almost impossible because there's another pin that slides in the telescopic part to go up and down. And I pulled that out and I couldn't get it to line up again. We had to take half the column apart to get it in.
We're going to have to talk about this after the show.
Yes.
Because they're not that complicated. Those things are very
This
simple.
was years ago.
Obviously.
Over 12. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to have been able to come and produce this show today. I was almost not going to make it because I was all congested. I've been sick for about a week and a half now. And please feel free to call Andrew's Lock and Key at
480-437-4022.
or Locksmith Charlie at 602-717-5397, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a great day.